She stood there in the middle of the courtroom, her hands trembling, eyes swollen from crying. She wasn't just scared, she was breaking. But instead of empathy, the judge chuckled. He actually laughed at her pain. What he didn't know was that someone was about to walk into that room, someone powerful, someone unexpected, and everything was about to change. This is the story of Tatiana Brooks, and how the system tried to silence her, but failed. Tatiana had never imagined her life would come to this. A single mother, 32 years old, with a calm strength and warm eyes. She had spent the last decade working night shifts as a nurse in Atlanta, Georgia. She was the kind of woman who never missed a parent-teacher meeting, who cooked every meal from scratch, who fell asleep reading bedtime stories to her daughter, Layla. But behind her calm exterior was a battle she never wanted to fight, one that began when she left a man who never accepted the word no. His name was Darius Caldwell. On the outside, he seemed respectable, a former athlete turned youth coach. But behind closed doors, he was controlling, jealous, and cruel. Tatiana had endured years of emotional manipulation before finally packing up her things and walking away for good. She thought the nightmare was over, but Darius had other plans. 2 months after their split, Tatiana received a court summons. Darius was accusing her of neglecting Layla, claiming she left the child home alone while working double shifts, that the girl often went hungry, and that she wasn't fit to be a mother. It was a lie, a calculated, vicious lie. But Tatiana didn't have money for lawyers. Everything she earned went to rent, groceries, and medication for her own diabetic mother, who lived with them. She stepped into that courtroom alone, thinking that if she simply told the truth, everything would be okay. The courtroom was cold, the walls were lined with pale wood paneling, and the judge, an older white man named Richard Gaines, sat high above everyone, his expression unreadable. Darius, in a tailored suit flanked by a sharp-tongued attorney, played the role of concerned father with chilling ease. Tatiana tried to stay calm. She told the judge about her job, her schedule, how her mother stayed with Layla when she worked nights. She even brought school records showing Layla's perfect attendance, her straight A report cards, her healthy pediatric records. But her voice wavered. She wasn't a performer. She was a mother. And when the lawyer pressed her with cold, loaded questions, "How many hours do you work? You expect the court to believe you can care for a child while working nights?" Tatiana's throat tightened. She looked at the judge, hoping for some kind of understanding. Instead, he smirked. "Ma'am, maybe you should have thought about all this before you had a child you couldn't care for," he said, adjusting his robe. Then came the laugh, soft, almost a scoff, but loud enough that everyone heard it. Tatiana's lips parted, stunned. She wasn't just being questioned, she was being mocked. Tears welled up in her eyes. Her hands trembled as she held up her pay stubs and medical receipts. She whispered, "I love my daughter more than anything. I would never—" The judge raised a hand. "That'll be all." He turned to Darius's lawyer, nodding as if the case was already decided. In the back row, a few people exchanged glances. One woman muttered, "This is messed up." But no one spoke up. Tatiana sat back down, her heart pounding in her chest. She stared at the floor, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. She wasn't just losing her daughter, she was being erased. But then, a loud creak echoed through the courtroom as the door swung open. Everyone turned. A woman entered, tall, composed, with locks pulled back into a neat bun and a sleek black suit that seemed to silence the room by itself. Her heels clicked with intention, her eyes locked on Judge Gaines, then on Tatiana. She walked straight to the front without hesitation. "Apologies for the delay, Your Honor. My name is Camilla Rhodes, civil rights attorney, and I'm here to represent Ms. Brooks." Gasps spread through the room. The judge blinked in confusion. "I wasn't made aware of any counsel," he said sharply. Camilla pulled out a motion. "This case has gained public attention after a recent social media post describing due process violations. I've already filed notice with the clerk this morning. You'll find my credentials and license on record." Darius's lawyer objected. The judge shifted uncomfortably. Tatiana stared, barely breathing. She didn't know this woman. She didn't call anyone. But Someone had heard her story. Someone had cared. Camilla turned to her, giving a subtle nod. You don't have to speak alone anymore. For the first time in days, Tatiana felt the tiniest flicker of hope. Judge Gaines tried to reassert control. We'll take a short recess and resume in 15. But it was too late. The energy in the room had shifted, and Tatiana wasn't the one on trial anymore. The system was. If you're enjoying this story, take advantage and subscribe to the channel so you'll always receive new stories. When the courtroom doors opened and Camilla Rhodes walked in, the mood shifted like a thunderstorm rolling in. For the first time since Tatiana sat down in that cold courtroom, someone was there for her. Someone who saw her not as a stereotype, not as a case number, but as a human being fighting to protect the most important person in her life. The recess felt like an eternity. Tatiana sat beside Camilla, eyes wide, voice barely above a whisper. I don't know who sent you, she said. Camilla smiled gently. You didn't need to know me. I just needed to know this wasn't right. In truth, Camilla had seen the story shared online by a law intern who had been in the courtroom that morning and was so disturbed by what she witnessed that she posted a detailed account. That post exploded across social media. By noon, Camilla, a seasoned civil rights attorney known for taking on the system, cleared her schedule and made her way to the courthouse. When the session resumed, Judge Gaines cleared his throat, visibly annoyed, but trying to maintain control. Ms. Rhodes, if you insist on proceeding, be brief. This court doesn't appreciate theatrics. Camilla didn't blink. Neither does the Constitution, Your Honor. She stood, walked to the center of the courtroom, and began presenting a defense so precise and irrefutable that it left everyone, including Darius and his smug attorney, completely off balance. First, she handed over medical documentation from Tatiana's mother's doctor, confirming her ability to care for Layla during Tatiana's night shifts. Next, she provided Layla's school records, perfect attendance, glowing teacher comments, and test scores well above average. Then she dropped the bomb, security footage from a convenience store near Tatiana's home showing Darius following her car more than once. Multiple timestamps showed him circling the block near her apartment even after their breakup. This is not a man concerned about a child's well-being, Camilla said clearly. This is a man attempting to weaponize the court system to punish a woman for leaving him. Gasps filled the room again. Darius squirmed in his seat. Camilla wasn't done. We also have texts, Your Honor. Messages where Mr. Caldwell threatened to make her life hell if she didn't give him another chance. The judge leaned forward, his face turning red. The opposing lawyer quickly asked for time to review the materials. But it was clear the damage had been done. Tatiana watched, hands covering her mouth. For so long she had carried the weight of this battle alone. Now, someone was standing up for her in a way she never thought possible. But Camilla wasn't just defending Tatiana. She was making a broader point. How many women sit in this courtroom alone, unheard, dismissed before they speak? Why is it that a black mother must bring mountains of proof just to be believed, while her accuser needs only a clean shirt and a rehearsed story? Judge Gaines shifted in his seat. Camilla continued, her voice unwavering. And when a woman cries in this courtroom, not out of manipulation but desperation, what kind of man responds with laughter? There was a long, chilling silence. Tatiana could feel every eye on the judge now. The same man who'd laughed at her pain an hour earlier now looked smaller behind that bench. Then Camilla walked back to the table and rested her hand lightly on Tatiana's shoulder. We rest, Your Honor. The judge cleared his throat again, forced to maintain some appearance of authority. Court will reconvene tomorrow morning for a final ruling, he said quickly, banging the gavel before leaving the bench in a fluster. As people filed out of the courtroom, several approached Tatiana. Some offered hugs, others whispered words of support. A few even apologized for not speaking up earlier. Outside, local reporters who had caught wind of the story tried to approach Camilla. She declined interviews. This isn't about me, she said. It's about a woman who never should have been put through this in the first place. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. Judge Gaines walked in with a colder, more restrained demeanor. He read from a prepared statement. After reviewing the new evidence and testimony, this court finds no basis for Mr. Caldwell's accusations. Custody remains solely with Ms. Brooks. Furthermore, due to the presentation of potential harassment and abuse of legal process, this matter will be referred to the District Attorney's Office for further investigation. Tatiana closed her eyes and let the tears fall. This time, not from fear, but relief. Camilla reached over and squeezed her hand. But the story didn't end there. In the weeks that followed, Judge Gaines came under internal review for conduct unbecoming of a judicial officer. Civil rights groups filed formal complaints, and a petition demanding accountability gained thousands of signatures. Tatiana, who once sat in silence, began to speak. She told her story to local radio stations, then national podcasts. Not to gain sympathy, but to shine a light on how often women like her are dismissed, mocked, and punished for daring to survive. She partnered with Camilla's firm to launch a small advocacy program for mothers navigating the court system alone. They named it Layla's Voice, and Darius? He vanished from the spotlight. The DA opened an investigation into his false claims. Turns out, Tatiana wasn't his first victim. Tatiana Brooks walked into that courtroom thinking no one would hear her. The judge laughed at her tears, thinking they were weakness. But what he didn't know, what so many underestimate, is that black women carry not just pain, but power. And when one rises, she brings others with her. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. We bring you real, powerful stories that need to be heard. Until next time, stay strong, stay aware, and never be afraid to speak truth to power.